electrospan membranes, and then we're going to use them for the various applications. Also, we want to make some beads or granules that we can use to filter water. So the potential impact of our solution is that we are taking materials or plants that are a nuisance to the environment, and we are trying to make solutions from them. We want to increase people's access to fresh water by availing affordable filter materials. We want to be able to come up with a process that can be used to commercialize the material so that we can get cellulose, commercial cellulose from the abundant materials that we have in Botswana. And we are hoping that from there, the locals can generate income for themselves. And here what we're trying to do is we're trying to convert what is a problem. We're trying to make it useful to our environment. We want our people to be able to take these invasive plant species, grow them in a controlled manner, and then from them they can make money, sell to whoever will be able to adopt the technology, make money for themselves. We are trying to make sure that we contribute to the resolution of conflict that is occurring. In Botswana, as I have already mentioned, we have a large herd of elephants, more than 130,000. And then we have that conflict between elephants, wild animals, and humans, because most of these animals, they destroy the fields. So we are trying to show people that this dung, we can take it and use it, make something that they can sell, maybe produce, generate income for themselves, as well as improve their livelihoods. So what I have here is a summary of some of the references that I've contacted. And this is my team here. I just want to thank all the students here. I have 2 PhD students, the top ones there. And then the bottom ones are masters and master of engineering students. I'm working with the University of Stony Brook on desalination, as well as UNISA, University of Botswana, and on the other contaminants, I'm working with BUST and University of Tshwane. So you can notice here that we have various universities from different countries. And then I want to thank my host as well as my sponsors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The last but not the least, then we take 2 questions from us. The last person here is Dr. Samuel Bunani, University of Burundi.
So thank you very much. I am really happy to be here now to present my work. I will be talking about the development of an electromembrane process for the recovery of nutrients from liquid waste resources. Actually, as the previous presenter said, the environmental health is also important so that we can see the human health. Otherwise, it may be not easy to live in a contaminated environment. Actually, the goal of my project is that we can simulate, remove and separate phosphorus and the nitrogen, and purify also organics. We will be using some different processes like pressure-driven membrane processes, like ultrafiltration. As you can see, there is a part of my lab that I was able to set up when I get the water and surface water, as you can see. When we look on those 2 processes, we can recover or separate organic carbon and also nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. We have to integrate the 2 processes because one cannot be able to recover them or separate them. The issue is here that some are anionic and cationic, while the other is molecular state. For that reason, we come to combine the 2 technologies so that we can see that we can have a safe water environment. In this one, we have those results that we are able to achieve. Here we are able to remove the dissolved organic carbon and concentrate them during the ultrafiltration. So, as you can see on the left figure, we were able to come from to the maximum of the initial dissolved organic carbon to less than it's around 95 removal rate from this organic carbon. When we look on the balance, we realize that most of the organic carbon was in concentrate, while in feed and on the membrane, we're still having a less amount of this carbon. This is the issue of the position of some organic carbon on the membrane. When we look on the recovery of those nutrients, that can be used in agriculture as a green fertilizer, we can see that depending on the pressure that was applied on the membrane, we were able to remove more than 30 milligram per liter for 5 bars as a pressure, while for the nitrogen, the total nitrogen, we were able to remove around 65 milligram per liter. If you look on the recovery for this nutrient by using a bipolar membrane electrodialysis, we will see that with this process, we were able to recover around 30 milligram per liter for the total phosphorus, while the nitrogen is around 55 milligram per liter when we apply voltage of 30 volt. Okay, and within this project, I was able to make my team, myself, and we have 3 master's theses. One is finished, and two ones are going on. While we have 2 PhD students which are conducting this research, and 2 lab technicians. Here it's my student who has finished the master's. If we look on the current collaboration, I am collaborating with one professor from Turkey, who is my co-supervisor for those PhD students. I have 2 Burundian professors as MS co-supervisor, and I am also collaborating with the Municipal Wastewater Management Department to regulate this kind of disposal for this bio-treated wastewater. And we collaborate also with this research center in natural science and environmental of the University of Burundi, and of course the technicians which are working in this treatment plant, which is located in Butelele region. If we look on the future collaboration, I was honored to have a professor from Montpellier in France, who want that we can collaborate, how we can clean. He is working on ecological hydrology, so that was interesting in that work, so that we can see how we can collaborate and see how we can track those kind of nutrients from the output to the input to the surface water. And then we are collaborating also with, in the future, of course, we will be collaborating with a company in Burundi, which is called FOMI, which is a fertilizer fabrication company. And I would like to thank all of the contributors and the partners which are already here now, and who will be in the future collaborating with others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bunani. We may now take 2 questions, maximum of 2 questions, so that we can now move to the next section. So if you have, yes, can come down. Or extend the microphone. So please, as you take the question, you direct it to the presenter so that the person who has done the presentation will be able to answer.
Thank you for that question. We're trying to do, just one process for the various sources. So we are
Right.
standard, just one.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Janine from Stellenbosch University and the University of Rwanda. I am a public health specialist and an associate professor at the School of Public Health at the University of Rwanda. My comment is threefold. It's not geared to the Africa Rise Fellows. I really appreciate the work they have done. I'm excited. Had applied once, but I was turned down. But probably because my question was not, the research question was not really fitting in the criteria looking at what we define as science. Having said that, I would like to appreciate the comment that one of the presenter from UNESCO made in terms of prioritizing the African indigenous knowledge. If that could be translated or seen as a science, that would be very important as based on experience. Given that I'm a scientist at the same time as a healthcare professional, one thing that I have seen throughout my career is the fact that we are still somehow colonized in how we define some of these, for example, science. Because before us, the way our forefathers were there and they did a certain form of science. So if we do not consider that in our measurement on how we define science, we'll continue to not moving forward, even to disfavor our own country, our own continent. One of the examples, there was a study that I wanted to do just to look at the evidence on the impact of faith-based organization in improving health system in Africa. The publication that we have so far in the literature, they're coming from the West, mainly America, because we do have most of the faith-based organization are funded by American. We couldn't get any published work with a high level of evidence because I was doing an umbrella of evidence, just to try to look at the evidence, the strength of the evidence that we've got to say that, faith-based organization as part of the health system actors, they've got an impact or they have contributed to the strengthening of health system, in particular, improving maternal and newborn child health in Africa. I have studied in, I guess majority have been as well in Ghana and even other African countries where we know we still have mission hospitals. But if we do not have a knowledge, we'll continue.
Please make it short because we need to continue. Thank you. One more question from here. So we are going to respond to...
Hello, I've been muted. Can I speak?
Well, yeah, please.
Thank you. Excellent presentations. I want to address my question to Dr. Daniel.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Daniel.
Okay. I'm a very professor Isabella Kashimba Konachi. I'm the president of Ghana University. Your presentation was really interesting. The dormant forms of Plasmodium falciparum. Now, what are these different from the hypnozoa? If you've been working on malaria as long as I've been with for 40 years, we use hypnozoids in P. ovale and P. malaria. And P. malaria can exist for about 20 years and reactivate and then set up a new infection. So this is really interesting that under drug pressure, you do get these dormant forms which happen in Plasmodium falciparum. So genomically, how different are the hypnozoids of P. ovale, P. malaria, P. virus as to the dormant forms of P. falciparum?
Thank you. Chairman, come and summarize this section so that we can move on to the next session.
Daniel has to respond to Professor Foster here.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So just to clarify, and that's why the title was very specific. So the other one that you have mentioned about is the Giovanni. So there is hydrogen which occur in legal stages. Those are totally different from what I am observing, which occur of the last stages. So those are the two different things. So regarding the the genotypes and, looking at the transcriptome of those parameters. This is what you're looking at once you receive them from the field. So, but we have isolated in the lab, so other studies, because we carried out in the USA and the NIH, so they are doing that. But in the field study, that's what we'll be doing, and we'll be doing that in Kenya.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. We are pressed with time, so if in one way or the other you don't get enough time to express yourself, please bear with us, because it's just a matter of we are just trying to keep up with time. So to wind up this session that we have just had on aspect of health, we have had a presentation from our AAS fellows, and also we have had a keynote address from our Professor Martin Nyaga. And so what is coming out very clearly and eminently is that there is an issue to do with capacity building. Capacity building is an issue based on Professor Martin Nyaga's presentation. And also, he also talked very vehemently and strongly in regard to true and honest collaboration. True and honest collaboration was also an aspect that he brought out very strongly. And also he talked about the issue of resource mobilization and availability. We should make sure that resource is available for the aspect of research. From our mentees, we have got quite a number of issues that came up, which were very, very interesting. One thing that they are addressing is the issue of capacity building that Professor Nyaga is talking about, because we have seen that most of the AAS mentees have been able to bring up or to mentor PhD student and master student to a good number. One of them has got 13, another one has got 4, another one has got 5, and so it implies that going forward we are making progress in terms of capacity building in relation to our research. Another thing that came out very strongly was I was very much surprised to see that, like Professor Emeritus has talked, asked a question there, to get to know that malaria identification and profiling can be done like a traffic light. So, yeah. So with that, when you look at that analogy, we are able to characterize and identify malaria. Also, what came out also very strongly from the presentation was that the use of increase of membranes, yeah, the use of membranes, yeah, membranes to purify water. So those are some of the things that came up. Yeah. Yeah. So those are some of the issues that came up, which I think we needed to look at. And so with this, I can see that we are responding to our what you call the TISA 20, yeah, TISA 2030, yeah, TISA 2030. They're talking about the aspect of innovation, capacity building, aspect of policy generation, and all that. So without much ado, I want to stop it there. So those are some of the key things that we are taking home with us. I want to proceed to the next level, to the next session, where we have Professor is going to call upon Winnie should come and introduce our, yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for this session. I don't want to belabor the point, but we are far behind time. So our next session is going to be a panel discussion. We'll be discussing the imperatives for advancing scientific cooperation in global health in Africa. The moderator for this session is Professor David Onyango. He's already here. So I'd invite Professor Martin Nyaga. Yes, round of applause, please. Professor Hamisi Malebo,
Professor Mrs. Esiwa. Professor Mrs. Esiwa. Okay. And then Professor Friday Okonofo. Professor Friday. Oh, yes. Professor Friday is online. Prof, please, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you very well. I'm hearing you, and if you want, I can share my photograph so you can also see me.
Thank you very much. So, Professor Onyango, your panel.
Thank you, Winnie. Mine this time is going to be very short. I'm going to give you people 5 minutes each, and in a count of my fingers like that, if your time is over, I will close it. So I've got questions to each and every panelist, and I will start by, so you have got 5 minutes to respond, please. So don't make it longer, just make it brief. The first question goes to my good professor, Professor Martin Nyaga. What would you consider the main priorities for global health in Africa, and why is it imperative to build scientific cooperation with and across Africa institutions? I'll repeat again so that it is clear to you. What would you consider the main priorities of global health in Africa, and why is it imperative to build scientific cooperation within and across Africa institutions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Onyango. I think for me, it's first to set up an agenda for Africa through proper planning. We need to know what our needs in terms of research. And two, we need to sustain the funding models in terms of being more self-reliant in funding rather than always seeking funding from more developed countries. We need to involve policymakers to be able to set up budgets that will enhance research in Africa. I'm borrowing this from what probably has been happening this year, where the Americans felt that they could cut some budgets. And we know that that has really affected a lot of research in Africa. So how do we address that? Is it through being more self-reliant on our own research by setting our own research agendas? Yeah. Others we've mentioned in previous presentations where we talked about capacity building, and these can never be overemphasized, where we need to build young people to undertake research and to be mentored by those more established researchers. And more importantly, to encourage collaborations so that we train people across the borders in Africa, and this will certainly empower people. And we, not just people, but several laboratories within the African region. We have set bodies that, like African Academy of Sciences, the African CDC, that can be good institutions to bridge these gaps between countries. And one big example would be the genomic surveillance in Africa, where we prepare for things like pandemics and things like that. And we know that African countries are not the same. Some are more endorsed, some are more established in terms of research. And we need to bring out collaboration so that we encourage researchers to work across countries. And this also brings the issue of legality in terms of establishing proper MOUs, establishing MTAs of samples across borders. How do we centralize laws that enhance movement of biological materials, for example, or reagents, or movement of people across countries? We need to really talk about that and engage through this forum to know how the policy makers can talk to the scientists and see how these rules can be harmonized. Because our biggest challenges sometimes lie within us, not within the external world. as I'm referring to Africa. We find that even movement of people around, live around samples or reagents is very difficult among African countries. So I think it's time, now that we have a forum that has got policymakers, to engage them and come up with solutions that will make or Eastern African research by formulating policies that cut across African countries so that we enhance movement of samples, movement of people, movement of agents, and collaboration between countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Professor Nyaga. I've got a question that goes to Professor Malebo. Would you want to use that? Okay. You need assistance? Could you please assist him so that we save on time, please? Okay. Yeah, so your 5 minutes starts now.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will. Yeah.
So, how can African leadership in health science and global health be strengthened through global cooperation mechanisms? How, for example, can the AU-EU innovation agenda create sustainable sources of research and innovation funding and be more responsive to African leadership? That's your question. Please take it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I decided to choose the topic of herbal medicine, which is an area of comparative advantage for Africa. History shows that early humans used medicinal plants for various purposes, and research have shown that medicinal plants contain compounds which are critical for drug discovery and development, as exemplified by some of the drugs which are already in clinical use, from traditional medicaments. And the development of modern pharmaceuticals actually brought a lot of information and experience from traditional medicine. For example, after knowing that cinchona can treat malaria, which have been used in traditional medicine for so long, scientific research led to the discovery of quinine, which was introduced in modern care. And using the quinine molecular framework as a template was used to synthesize quite a number of molecules and led to the discovery of other useful antimalarials, as like the aminoquinolines, phenolphthalein methanols, and so forth. Taking an example of artemisinin, the same from medicinal plant, but led to the introduction of a number of new antimalarials in clinical use. Another further study looking at the mode of action of traditional molecules. For example, with quinine, it was found that quinine prevents the digestion of hemoglobin to release amino acids and heme, which is useful for the parasite to get energy, but heme is toxic to the parasite, and the parasite detoxifies by polymerizing heme to hemozoin. But quinine prevents the detoxification, and the parasite gets killed by the molecule. Then by exploiting this mode of action, quite a number of new antimalarials were introduced in clinical care. Another good example of the importance of traditional medicine comes with the cancer treatment. At the moment, more than 91% of anti-cancer drugs used worldwide are extracted directly from medicinal plants, and I've given some examples here. And here are some of the medicinal plants also which are leading into the cancer treatment. Despite the importance of traditional medicine and introducing quite a number of useful drugs in clinical care, interest for research in traditional medicine declined, Due to the emergence of good sciences like combinatorial chemistry, nanoparticle-based drug discovery, and so forth. But a significant percentage of drugs have failed in clinical trials due to a number of reasons. Due to that, there is renewed interest in traditional medicine, research and development, and because of this resurgence, even the World Health Organization is now advocating for the integration of traditional medicine in healthcare. Then how can we advance scientific cooperation in herbal medicines and herbal medicine research and development in Africa? I will skip this slide and concentrate on the last slide. That need can be met by establishing a consortium focused on advancing scientific cooperation in herbal medicine research and development in Africa. A consortium which actually will address the growing demand for evidence-based practices and to ensure the quality, safety, and efficacy of herbal medicines. A consortium needed to foster collaboration among researchers, healthcare professionals, regulatory bodies, and industry stakeholders to promote rigorous scientific research, standardization of practices, and ultimately the integration of herbal medicine into mainstream healthcare. A consortium between Africa with China, India, and the European Union is crucial for leveraging the rich traditional knowledge of African herbal medicines with the Chinese, Indian, and European scientific expertise, promoting sustainable development and addressing shared health challenges. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor, for that. We move on to our third presenter, and this is going to be online. I want to believe Professor Okonofua is online. Is it so? Please, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Thank you very much. So I want to ask you a simple question. I know it is simple to you, and you will be able to answer. And the question goes like this: how can scientific findings better inform health policy and program implementation? What are the necessary steps to ensure science policy practice alignment? I'll repeat it again so that it's clear. How can scientific findings better inform health policy and program implementation? What are the necessary steps to ensure science policy practice alignment? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. You've asked a very important question. And I believe that that question, which is research to policy linkage, is one of the most important discourse currently going on in public health and development all over the world. It provides a foundation for informed decision-making, allowing for the validation of findings, the authentication of findings, and it supports the development of new knowledge, and indeed the provision of new knowledge and the identification of appropriate solutions that are relevant to development. And the use of research evidence for policymaking is still poorly developed in the African continent, unfortunately. It's an area where the African Academy of Science needs to strengthen its research advocacy intervention. You've asked me these questions as a double-barrel question, so I will go to the first part of the question, which is how do we link results to policy and practice? And I'll make about 5 recommendations on that. First, the domestication of evidence-based decision-making, ensuring that policymakers have access to evidence to inform policy decisions. That means, for example, we should publish in journals and outlets that are easily available to decision makers. Secondly, there should be collaboration between researchers and policymakers in the co-design and implementation of research. So these days we talk about implementation research. The idea is to bring everybody on board to be able to think about the research from the very beginning to the very end, ensuring policy relevant and question that answers specific developmental challenges. These days, funders don't fund any research. They fund researches that are relevant to developmental challenges. And then thirdly, knowledge translation to policymakers in easily understandable language and the timely dissemination of results of research that will be undertaken, including the use of social media and so many other channels, policy briefs, etc. And then fifthly, capacity building of policymakers themselves and implementers so that they know how to use scientific evidence. So we don't just assume that they know how to synthesize evidence from research and therefore to use it to develop policies and practices. And finally, and most importantly, in that aspect, I believe that science advocacy by organizations such as the African Academy of Science is very, very important, so as to promote the use of science evidence at national and international levels to address development. Then the second part, the second arm of the question asked is how science, the steps that can be used to align policy, science, and practice in research.
As you go to the second part, you only have got 2 minutes remaining, please.
First, the step one is to define the health challenge and identify stakeholders. The second step is to conduct the research in a context that is relevant format in collaboration with stakeholders. The third step is to translate research findings into policy relevant languages. And then the fourth step is to engage with these policymakers and practitioners face-to-face formats. And the fifth step is to develop and implement relevant policies and practices that can be kept and everybody will know about it. The sixth step is to monitor and evaluate progress. And finally, to foster continuous learning and improvement. This is a very big subject, and I think 5 minutes is not enough. But I wish to abide by what you have said, and therefore, I wish to thank you all for listening to this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor. Sorry for the time. That was short, but we are pressed with time. So at this juncture, I will give, I want us to ask only one question to the presenters. We have had 4 presenters. Yeah? We have had 3 presenters out of the 4. So I'll ask that we only ask one question to the presenters, please. So if there's a burning question or issue that need to be clarified, please, this is the time. From the floor. Yes.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. My question goes to the presenter on traditional medicine. So, how close are we to using traditional medicine to resolve cancer issues globally? How close are we? Thank you.
Can I respond? Yeah, thank you very much. I like the question because before Western contacts, the African continent survived on the traditional medicine. They had all sorts of traditional medicaments for each and every illness. Let's acknowledge that we moved far away from the culture, from our culture of traditional medicine. And though we navigated their way, we are learning that those traditional medicaments were not useless because our forefathers used to survive on them. Scientific research is rediscovering the importance of traditional medicaments. Useful chemical compounds are now being introduced in medical care. They were introduced long ago, and continuously they are being introduced into medical care. Talking about the cancer treatment, most of the anti-cancer drugs used for chemotherapy, they come from traditional medicinal plants. other part of science is contributing less than 90% of the current treatments for cancer worldwide. One can think logically. If a small portion of research was done in traditional medicinal plants and contributed 91% of anti-cancer drugs in clinical use, how about investing more energy for research and development of the remaining parts of traditional medicaments? How much can we get and introduce in modern care? That's why the World Health Organization is helping us to rethink, because they are recommending now to integrate useful, efficacious, and safe traditional medicaments in modern care.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. I want to believe that the question is well responded to. It's so unfortunate that time was not on our side, and so we have to edit there. And I would want us probably from where we are seated, so that to show that we are not sleeping, please stand up, and then you give them a round of applause, please. Please stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Let us first of all stand up, and then.
Hello.
Thank you very much. I hand over now the next session to my colleague, Ms. Winnie, to tell us the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Evidently, everybody is tired. I saw a few people who couldn't help it. So we are giving you 10 minutes break. There's some refreshment for people to wake up. We have one more session before the day ends. So we have 10 minutes. The washroom is downstairs if you need to visit the space. 10 minutes, and then we are back to continue. Hopefully you'll be wide awake then. Please enjoy the break.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. most of the presentations are there. Hello. Welcome back. I hope everybody is awake now. Shall we take our seats and continue with the next session?
Recording in progress.
Dr. Noeline Roundry Rakutorisi. She did tell me I shouldn't try it, but I had to try it. Please welcome Dr. Noeline with a round of applause. Dr. Noeline is a senior program specialist and section chief at Biosphere Network and Capacity Building in the Division of Ecological and Earth Sciences at UNESCO. She holds a PhD in Ecological Sciences from Paul Sabatier University, Toulouse, France. She began her career as a research professor in plant ecology and biology in Madagascar. From 1984 to 1993, she worked at the University of Mahajanga in northwestern Madagascar, where she was the Dean of the Department of Natural Sciences from 1984 to 1989. In 1994, she joined the University of Antananarivo, where she worked in the Plant Ecology Laboratory of the Department of Botany and Ecology. She joined the United Nations family as an environmental program officer at UNDP in the same city in 2000. Then in UNESCO in 2004 as a specialist in the Man and the Biosphere program. She has been based in Dakar, Senegal, Nairobi, Kenya, and then at the headquarters in Paris since April 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Noeline. Another round of applause, please. Thank you very much. We'll have our keynote remarks from Professor Adesola Ajayi, Professor of Crop Science and Vice Chancellor, First Technical University, Ibadan, Nigeria. Jeffrey Onaga, an Arise Fellow from my department, Department of Marine and Fishery Sciences, University of, and then the panelists we have for today's panel discussion are Dr. Felicitas. Please join me up here, thank you. And Dr. Marth Moncho, National University of Agriculture, Benin. Round of applause, please. Okay, so Professor Adesola Ajayi is already here with us, who is going to be part of the discussion. And to moderate this session for us, I'd invite Dr. Benjamin Jampo. Dr. Jampo. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much. I leave you in the able hands of Dr. Jampo.
Thank you very much. We start the opening remarks first, then afterwards, Professor take us for his opening statements. Dr. Oling.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here with you this afternoon in this wonderful city of Accra, which has improved a lot these last couple of years. I want to thank AAS, the government of Ghana, and the partners for having me here. The panel on sustainable agriculture and food security, thank you, is, I think, very much linked with the previous panel on health, because to be healthy, we have to eat healthy food. So I think it's a good transition for this panel, and this panel will explore imperatives for advancing scientific cooperation in sustainable agriculture and food security across Africa. As climate change, loss of biodiversity, population growth, and resource constraint challenges traditional practices, cross-border collaboration in research and innovation becomes critical. Crop biodiversity is also critical to conserve, because it is in nature that we will find the future climate change crops, adapted varieties. I think that we should also, beyond the scientific issues, we should also look at the conflicts we have nowadays in land use, agriculture, mining, and other things, and also the issue of land property. I think that we can only secure agriculture if the land property is also secured. And this is something that I think governments should look at very seriously. And for this session, the speakers will examine frameworks for strengthening partnership between African institutions and global scientific communities, promoting knowledge exchange, and scaling climate-smart agriculture. Emphasis will be placed on inclusive policy making, local capacity building, and leveraging technology. So now I give the floor to our speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me adopt the already established protocol since we began this meeting earlier in the day. And my remarks will focus essentially on the advances, the opportunities, as well as the challenges or priorities for sustainable agriculture and food security in Africa. And as we all know, there's no doubt about the fact that Africa as a continent is well endowed, particularly when it comes to genetic resources. But in spite of that, we also have a fair share of challenges that are associated, or rather mitigating against the efforts to make Africa food secure. I'll start by highlighting some of the advances that we have witnessed over time and the progression of which is still ongoing. Across Africa, there's now adoption of climate-smart agriculture, whether in terms of farming practices or in terms of inputs, particularly seeds, or in terms of even exploring diversity within rich genetic resources. We have that, and there's also, in line with the evolution of technology, a lot of technology-driven approaches, not only in terms of production, even in terms of food distribution, and we see that growing digital agriculture, adoption of biotechnology. In spite of the resistance, we see that there has been progress in terms of the adoption of biotechnology and improved seed system across Africa. And of course, the use of agroecological approaches and regenerative farming are some of the advances that we are witnessing to make sure that we have a balance between the adoption of both, or the fusion of traditional knowledge as well as scientific knowledge. But in spite of these advances, we also have that there are lots more opportunities that we can take advantage of, that we can utilize to make African agriculture and food security better than it is. The African Continental Free Trade offers a historical opportunity to integrate regional food markets and stimulate intra-African trade. And like I mentioned earlier on, the digital revolution is something that is quite innovative. And sometimes for me, as a professor of crop science, it amazes me the breadth as well as the ingenuity of young people and how they're bringing this to bear in terms of agriculture. Now we have a lot of telecommunication services that are linked to agriculture. You can get information at the click of a button on our phone. And there's also a lot of investment. We have seen private sector investment. We have seen massive injection of funds in agriculture. But in order to make sure that this is better contextualized, we have a recently endorsed 10-year strategy for the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. And to push the frontiers of agricultural research, agricultural production, and food security further, we need to invest more and better in agricultural research and education. We must close the gap between production, the productivity and equity gap. We need to prioritize resilience of the African agricultural system. We're very vulnerable, and the capacity for resilience needs to be enhanced. There's also the need to build trust and ownership at the grassroots levels. And as we deliberate on this, let us remember that food security is not just about quantity. It is also about quality, about dignity, about sustainability and sovereignty, and it is about ensuring that African people can feed themselves with food that nourishes, with food that empowers, and with food that protects our environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Ajayi. With two spotlight presentations. The first is coming from Dr. Onaga. So you have 5 minutes, but you can give us 3 minutes.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm going to present on rice. And rice is the #2 crop in the world that supplies calories to more than half of the world population. So here we are focusing on the African rice species, which has been underutilized in the past. So most of the work has been done on the Asian rice species, but we focused on this species because we really wanted to discover some of the traits that may not be available in the Asian species. So I'll give you the background, the ongoing research, and the future directions. So if you look at those maps and the pie chart, you can see the production of rice in the world, and Africa just produces very small quantity, about 15 million tons. This is a crop that we eat almost every day, but you can see the production is very low. And even that, only a few countries that contribute to that, that amount, like countries like Nigeria, Tanzania, Madagascar, and Mali. Other countries have very, very small quantity that they are producing. So as you can see from the pie chart, most of the production comes from West Africa. It's about 61%. The other countries from East, South, and North Africa produce very, very small quantities. So if we can increase rice production in Africa, either by increasing the land area or increasing the tons per hectare, we should be able to become self-sufficient, to reduce the imports that we incur a lot of money importing from Asia. So from that graph, you can see that most of the regions in Africa, if they increased the tonnage to about 6 tons per hectare, we should be able to become self-sufficient and cover up for the rising population in Africa. So statistically, there are predictions that we need about 111 million tons of rice by 2040 and about 38 million extra tons to come from Africa. And that's why we are really focused on improving rice resilience to several constraints, mainly biotic and abiotic constraints. So this map shows you the prediction of the effect of climate change in Africa. You can see how severe it is in Africa compared to other regions. And one of the constraints that comes out more prominently is the drought effect. And then we have diseases. And we're trying to cover up the deficit in production by increasing fertilizer use, but that may not be sufficient, and it may also lead to increase in biotic constraints. So this is the problem we are focusing on in this project. We are looking at rice blast. So when you look at the distribution of rice blast in Africa, you see that the pathogen is very diverse, and it has all the lineages that are present in Asia. And drought is one of the contributing factors to increasing the severity of blast. So our project mainly focuses on Oryza glaberrima, which is underutilized, and we are focusing on identifying blast resistance variants, introgressing resistance in Oryza glaberrima into elite materials or cultivars that farmers usually grow. And then we build institutional capacity by training students and infrastructure. So I've been warned that time is not on my side. So far what we have done is to optimize the phenotyping protocol with the help of the ARISE project. We have been able to optimize the screening of accessions for resistance to blast, and that one of the PhD students has done that very well. The other component that we have been able to come up with is a number of resistant African rice species that we are now focusing on for further research. And we also examined the African rice species, whether they have genes that are already known or not. But not much is available in the African rice species. There are only about 2 genes that are existing. So the other component we are working on is sequencing of the accessions. We are trying to build our own reference genome by sequencing our African species. And so far, with the help of this project, we have been able to get a very high quality genome sequence of Rhiza glaberrima, which is better than the previous version that was available online. And that's really a very big achievement for us. We have also been able to do some QTL analysis through genome-associated mapping, and we have identified some regions that are associated with blast resistance. And we are continuing with making process hybridization of glaberrima, which is the African rice species, with the Asian species. So far, we have gone up to, for those who are familiar with breeding, we have gone up to backcross 3 and F1, but we still have some level of sterility, as you can see here. So we are likely to advance again to the next backcross, which is backcross 4. We are expecting to recover about 90% of fertility after backcross 4. So this is just how we are trying to assemble the genome, use the genome concept. I don't know whether I should continue or stop, but this is the concept of pangenome, and it is helping us to get a quality reference genome which is more representative by integrating several genomes together. And that will help us in even improving the GWAS mapping and other functions like population genetics analysis. So one of the PhD students is also working on the transcriptome to understand the response of rice to both drought and the pathogen under high nitrogen. These are the PhD students in our lab, and now we have 3 PhD students and 1 master student, and we expect to recruit 1 more master student. So these are the contributions. I will not go through this, but
about rice will complement flooding and erosion, and they also have the potential to purify water. So in situations where we have our water ecosystems or aquatic ecosystems becoming heavily polluted, these oysters can actually help to clean them. But aside that, they also are significant for people or communities along the western coast of Africa. And you can see in the figure there showing that a significant component of our shoreline has environments that are conducive for oysters. What is the challenge? Globally, we have lost about 85% of our oyster reefs. I mean, those that are coming from the wild. That was in 2011. And the literature shows that we are still losing them. And what are the driving factors? Overharvesting is one of them. Climate change itself, changing temperature regimes, and also precipitation, which is also influencing their salinity, is another driver of this change. And you see that on my left I have that of US and also Ghana. So the trends are the same, decreasing population globally. So what are our high-level ARISE objectives? Number one, we are looking at how we can innovate oyster shells themselves as bioarchives for paleoclimate reconstruction, because to be able to understand how our ecosystems are changing, we need historical data, and in Africa we don't have that data, and so we need to look at some of these proxies. And so we are trying to use the oysters or their shells to understand how our past climates are changing. We're trying to model oyster habitats presently to predict future scenarios of the ecosystem structure, and also to explore potentials for large-scale oyster restoration as a way of building resilience. So in order to use them as bioarchives, we need to be able to constrain their ages. And so what we have been doing is to date the oyster shells using carbon-14 dating principle or technique. And we have, through this project, we've been able to date shells across West Africa with age spanning 1960 AD to as far back as 1030 AD. So here we are talking about our oldest oyster that we have seen so far being 3,000 years old, and that also has some cultural connections. We are also looking at using, again, the shells as a proxy to temperature reconstruction. So we are looking at elemental compositions within the shells, including trace elements, major elements, and also isotopes of oxygen and carbon-13 to do that. One of the challenges that we encountered, so far we have models that have been developed for doing this, but most of these models have been developed using oysters from the temperate region. And so if you apply this model to our oysters, chances are that you will be making wrong climate predictions or reconstruction. So that is the challenge that we face. We applied one of the models and we got this estimation of temperatures. So what we are currently doing is to now calibrate our own oyster, and to do that we need to collect some time series data to be able to come out with a very good model. So that is currently ongoing. I talked about habitat suitability modeling. We have also done a habitat suitability modeling to understand how suitable current habitats are for oysters to grow in the wild. And for one of the systems that we studied, in fact, When we started working there were oysters there, but as I speak now, the oysters have all gone down, and we predicted the habitats only about 38.99% of a small area of that ecosystem is suitable for oysters to thrive. So then there's a need to start thinking about potential restoration programs where we can factor in these environmental changes that are driving the decline in the population. And so what we are currently doing is to look at the genetic mapping of the oysters to understand what populations we have, look at strain selection, where we are also running laboratory simulations and exposing them to various climate scenarios or environmental changes, and also profiling their diets because they feed on phytoplankton. And so once the ecosystem or the coastal ecosystem is changing, it means that their food is also being impacted by these environmental changes. And so we need to also profile the diet and see how we can produce these algae that they feed on. So most of these ones are future directions of our research work. So in terms of institutional capacity, I cannot finish without highlighting this. Thanks to the RISE project, we have been able to set up a stable isotope lab here at the University of Ghana, where we are able to measure the different isotopes that we've been working with. And I cannot finish without thanking my team, who are also beneficiaries of the ARISE project, 2 PhD students, 5 master's students, and a technician, through support of ARISE. And on that note, thank you.
Thank you, Geoffrey and Adam. Thanks very much. I eat rice, I eat fish, so I can't understand that one. So we go into a very brief panel discussion, and with Martha and Felicitas, as those who haven't spoken on the table yet, maybe in 2 minutes, is there a key message about us getting sustainable agriculture and food security in Africa that we think you should not leave this stage without telling us? Just in 2 minutes. Each. First, Felicitas.
They are already integrated within the system, and
agriculture. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Martha.
Access, innovation, and technology. My first recommendation is to always participatory research.
Okay.
Yes, participatory research, engaging farmers and learn from them, and also recognize their traditional knowledge and help them to improve. And my second recommendation is to invest in training and also in resources for extension workers, because we know that extension workers act like a link between research institution and farmers. And also it's very important to make technology and innovation affordable. Yes, so government policies and programs should make easy access to credit for smallholder farmers, to enable them to get access to technology.
Thank you very much, Martha. To Prof. Ajayi, I think within Africa we've been cooperating. We've been doing intra-Africa cooperation, South-South cooperation, North-South, but we don't seem to have got where we want to get to. What is not happening?
I think there's quite a number of structural and institutional barriers. One, at individual country level, there's a resource limitation in terms of what people do. We have fragmented systems, and let me illustrate this. Within our countries, you have research institutes, or you have majority of people in the universities. And a lot of research in our institutes and the universities are driven by the need for promotion. You rarely have a government-backed or sponsored program to which the outcome of what is being done across our place. We also have very weak policy policy research collaboration. Many of our countries, you have that there's this disconnect. For example, the CADEP 10-year plan that has been that was approved, I think, less than 2 months ago, that was launched less than 2 months ago. There's a copious mention of the fact that the commitment of our government is not how that dovetails into policy, how that dovetails target in terms of our research. So some of these challenges, what we're still having, in the sense that there are institutional silos, and you have pockets of people, and you really find in Africa research that has a long stretch of time in terms of decades. But you don't find that translated into food systems. So except the international centers and regional centers who have better funded than the national system, we have platforms like ASRIC, CORA, FARA that we could use to drive
speed and commitment to these goals.
Okay, thank you. Martha said something that I want to catch with Edem on, the issue of getting the communities involved. I follow your work well. I want to know how involved in this observation. Just probably very briefly.
Thank you for the question. So right from the word go, we have been working with communities. In fact, what motivated us to start looking at oysters is because of the dependence of these communities on the oyster, or on the oysters. In fact, when you look at the fishing value chain, you realize that men dominate most of the roles in the fishing value chain. It is only in the shellfish industry or sector that you find women dominating from collection all the way to marketing. And so it's a very sensitive area, and that is why right from the word go, we've been working with co-design some of our programs within the projects with women whose livelihoods are directly impacted by the oysters.
Thank you very much, Adam. The last one to Geoffrey. This one, we want to achieve sustainable agriculture and food security. Coming from Africa Rice, a key aspect in all this is funding. Should funders who are outside the continent not be able to support Africa Rice at the levels that they are doing? Do you think we can survive? How much do we get from funding within the continent?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question you're asking. It is important that we take research as a priority if we really want to achieve significant changes as far as sustainable farming is concerned. It is funding from within Africa is very low, but we still have hope that with tangible products, most governments in Africa will be motivated to fund research. Currently, most of the funding comes from outside Africa, including funding that we receive at Africa Rice. But Africa Rice is an organization with 28 member countries in Africa, and they contribute a small percentage to Africa Rice. So currently our chairman, the board of trustees, is from Ghana, and one of the messages that he gave us in the previous meeting is that he's going to really push for support from African countries, especially the member countries of Africa Rice. And I think the same should go to other organizations. Engaging member countries is key, and actually showing them the value of what they are funding. Value for money is very important, so you should actually show them tangible products that can motivate them to fund research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I can call Dr. Nwalin to give us a closing remarks. And thanks very much to all the panel members for your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Benji, for the excellent moderation. It was a short but very productive session, I think. Difficult to summarize. We had an overall overview on what was the challenges, but also what was the advancing points in sustainable agriculture by Professor Ayayi. Then we had two presentations, one on rice, which is very important for the agriculture and for food security in Africa, and we had one on oyster. Oyster may be seen as a very small way of very small livelihood in Africa, but Dr. FM really shows us that it addresses a lot of issues, climate change issues, but also gender issues. So I think that whatever food we have to working in Africa, it will always be useful and important. Then you had the panel. What I can say that within what have been said and also the various presentations, I think that we have to improve national and regional collaboration, and they have expressed that we need to have stronger research network to promote knowledge exchange and innovation in sustainable agriculture. We have also, of course, to invest in capacity building, and we should build local capacity. We should enable institutions and researchers to address agricultural challenges effectively, and I think that effectively is very important. We also discussed about promoting inclusive approaches, and I think it's important to encourage collaboration between scientific communities, agribusiness stakeholders, smallholder farmers, but also to address other issues like gender. So it's important to have this inclusive approach and to also incorporate traditional knowledge. It is very important when it comes for agriculture. We should also make everything possible to leverage technology for the adoption of climate smart models, technologies and innovations to improve agricultural productivity, and we talk a lot about resilience. I think that resilience against climate change is very important. And then finally, we talk about financial resources that should be coming more from national governments, from regional government in Africa, and these financial resources should really ensure sustainable practices and food security. So I think I will stop here, and thank you for your attention, and thank you for all the panelists. Thank you.
Shall we have another round of applause for them? Thank you so much. You've been an amazing audience. So, the session for the day is on digital transformation and innovation. We've spoken about health, we've spoken about sustainable agriculture and food security. Now we're going to talk about transformation and innovation, digital transformation and innovation, which hopefully will help the first two sessions go beyond board. To chair this session for us is Professor Ahmed Zoba. Prof. Zoba is the chair of the ARISE Scientific Advisory Committee and Director of Postgraduate Research at Brunel University of London. He discusses the critical role of science in Africa. He also highlights the importance of public health, sustainable energy, digital inclusion, and economic growth in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. With Africa's youthful population and significant potential, Prof. Zoba emphasizes the transformative power of young minds in leading the continent toward a knowledge-based and innovation-driven future. For the round of applause, please welcome Prof. Ahmed Zoba. To do this session with Prof. Ahmed is Dr. Bessie Malila, an ARISE Fellow, who will be doing a spotlight presentation Dr. Emma Harigwa, who is also an ARISE Fellow. From Tunisia, Dr. Malila is from South Africa, Cape Town. And then we'll have a panel discussion on imperatives of advancing scientific cooperation in digital transformation and innovation in Africa. To do the panel discussion, we have Prof. Raja Mersley. Prof. Raja Mersley, Professor of Physics at the Faculty of Sciences, University of Rabat, Morocco. And Dr. Christina Yang Zhang will be joining us online. She is with the Metaverse Institute, London, United Kingdom. And then we'll have Prof. Rafael Munavu, Professor Munavu, perfect. Professor Munavu is the chairperson, Konza Technopolis Development Authority Board, Kenya. You're an awesome audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. It disappeared. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is the last. Okay, so I have many disappeared printers and moderators, so I am here. Okay, so good afternoon, colleagues, guests. Important session on digital transformation and innovation. This is at the core of Africa's aspiration to become a globally respected, knowledge-based and innovation-driven continent. As we meet under the umbrella of, we are reminded that digital transformation is not about connectivity and hardware. It is about the system we build, the people we power, and the values protect in shaping Africa's digital future. Vision will also contribute to the wider reflection feeding into a manifesto of G20 to provide a platform to explore how Africa can lead ethical, inclusive, and transformative digital innovations. We have a strong program ahead, a keynote address, 3 spotlight presentation from ARISE Fellow, and a high-level panel discussion. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Shyamo Mochigwa, Director of the African Open Science Platform and Digital Transformation Lead at the National Research Foundation of South Africa. The floor with you, Dr. Mochigwa. 10 minutes for your presentation. Sorry.
Is the presentation loaded up? Thank you very much. While the technical colleague comes through, it's such a delightful pleasure for me to be here. I was supposed to be in Leiden with Professor Lisa Costin, who told me about this event. I immediately canceled Netherlands and came straight here, because I think the discussions you are having here, they're quite exciting, and I think I would have hoped for the scientists to get more than 5 minutes. So really, this is fantastic. My name is Shyamo Mochigwa. I'm the director for the African Open Science Platform. I swapped science for the green suit, because I believe science does not happen in a vacuum. I think some of the discussions that we had today regarding funding, for example, are critical. He who pays the piper calls the tune, isn't it? I think it's quite critical that some of the discussions
we have today also focuses on the things we need to get our science going. So really, I always feel guilty coming to give a keynote and have 10 minutes. I was in 2 months ago, flew nearly a day and a half to make a 20-minute presentation. And I thought it was quite inefficient use of resources and global warming. So very quickly, I would like to position this through the prism of digital transformation in the RSTI ecosystem. Even to the discussion today. So first of all, some definitions. I think it's quite critical to have these definitions. I think somebody mentioned today, for example, the issue of Africa exporting labor in the early days of the industrial revolutions. Nowadays, we are involuntarily exporting labor because Africans who are trained don't want to come to the continent because the configurations of our science systems are not sufficient. Personally, I did my undergraduate in London, PhD my postdoc, and voluntarily came home. When you come home, you find that configured to science, hence I decided to do other things. I think digital is quite critical, and I think we need to look at it from both sides in terms of digital transformation of research and innovation ecosystems and digital transformation regarding digital services, for example, to improve services to the stakeholders. I always put this slide, Africa is big, both in terms of potential, in terms of challenges. And I think we should not forget that we're a great continent. I think people have mentioned the issue of age. It is quite relevant that we're at the university. This room must be full of students, looking at the scientists here and feeling inspired. So I think I'll encourage you, Obed, next time just go to the classes, just yank those students to come to the auditorium to really get inspired. I think there was a very interesting discussion earlier about African science. Let's not forget that huge advances have been made in this continent. Who knows that the first civilizations to do steel in terms of carbon and steel was right here in the continent 2,400 years ago, centuries before the Europeans knew anything about steel. And you know what happened to construction after the steel industry taken to hold. And I think it's quite critical to have a look as Africans and think about how we can advance our science. I'm putting this picture there because I think it's quite emblematic. Right here in 1903, the British took the seeds of palm trees from Gold Coast and taking them to Malaysia. Today, Ghana is a net importer of palm oil. Malaysia has got a full value chain in terms of palm products. The same thing I would argue for cocoa, the same thing for coffee. These value chains that we as Africans ought to be owning and leading the world, I think we are neglecting our responsibilities. Colleagues, I'm very excited because all these areas that I've put up there, I've worked on them. And I've taken 5-year leave from the University of Botswana to lead the African Open Science Platform, to drive the open science side of things. I've worked in cyber infrastructure, regionally at SADC. I've worked with research infrastructures. And I think it's critical to have a collective conversation about these things when we talk about digital transformation. I'm sharing these slides for informational purposes. Open science is well defined. But what is critical is to appreciate the value proposition of open science vis-a-vis all those areas. I'm highlighting, for example, the value proposition regarding innovation, given we're talking about innovation here. The value proposition regarding economic benefits. When somebody says to you, why do you open science, beyond just scientific integrity, we must be able to articulate these high-level open science value propositions. So I think it's quite critical to think about that. There are a number of pillars that are highlighted in the UNESCO recommendations. Open science infrastructures, which are actually key. Think about what we need to do in Africa regarding opening up the infrastructures, investments that we have, of which there are few. I want to excite you about the possibility that you see there regarding open dialogue with other knowledge systems. Professor Malebo mentioned a very, very important talk regarding indigenous knowledge. Not just dialogue with other knowledge systems, but bringing their science into the mainstream and having genuine, trustworthy dialogue to make them comfortable coming into the mainstream. And I think open science provides those avenues. Colleagues, there are a number of things that are imperative for governments to do, for universities to do, for institutions to do, and for ourselves to do as stakeholders. I want to mention that there is a very little jump from open science to open innovation, and I think it's not a very big jump. It's not the case that you cannot provide value add on open science or open science outputs. You can. And indeed, this is the makings of open innovation. I think there's some sort of things that came up here. Very quickly, Prof, I can see you are getting agitated. There is lack of policies. When I was invited to come and talk, I was invited to also mention policies. I'm excited that AU has provided leadership. There's been a gap as to how we accommodate open science in the policy frameworks. The new TISA 2034 has got very exciting language about transitioning to open science in the country, accelerating that transition. And this is promising because a lot of countries, as you can see, are struggling, first of all, domesticating what open science means, secondly, legislating for it, and thirdly, making investments that are required. So it was quite instrumental that TISA came out and saw open science as a key area to work on. Colleagues, the elephant in the room regarding the open agenda is the data. All of you were talking about data coming out of your research. Where is it? Where would it be in 10 years' time? Can your postgraduates from now and their students be able to look at your research and re-evaluate it and do interesting work? The elephant in the room is the full research data life cycle and how we produce data that is fundable, accessible, and interoperable and reusable, but most importantly, creating data assets for Africa across different domains. What would happen if we could do this? We can unlock a lot of value. This is just one area, geology. We know that Africa is a naturally endowed continent, but where is the data to do the innovation you are talking about? The conversation has moved. The world now is talking about these architectures, these standards, these technologies, a web of fair data. I think as Africans, we need to be part of the conversations, especially developing the standards, as you can see there. Finally, in terms of the background, people are now talking about global research commons, environments that we can create so that we can collaborate on areas where we don't need to compete. Global Open Science Cloud. We've got our colleagues from Europe here. They've developed a European Open Science Cloud. Where's the African Open Science Cloud? I think these are critical issues. Of course, when we have this, you can do very good, interesting, useful data science. Colleagues, very quickly, in terms of token theory, we've done things in Southern Africa for the past 10 years regarding creating ecosystems like cyber infrastructures. I want to excite you about the possibility of a project that we did to develop computational resources at university levels. A lot of universities do not have supercomputing facilities. A lot of countries do not have supercomputing facilities dedicated to research. They have data centers and the likes, but they do not have supercomputing facilities. So we did a project to capacitate institutions, both in terms of the hardware, working with institutions abroad that have got supercomputing facilities that they decommission, and using those hardware to actually capacitate others. Colleagues, this was part of the preparation for the SKA project, which sees Southern Africa and Southern Australia hosting the most advanced instrument to peer at the inner recess of the universe to do astronomy. Some very good science is already coming out, as you can see there. The high frequency spectrum side of things is done in Southern Africa, the low frequency in Australia. There's already good science coming out. So very quickly, I wanted to excite you about the possibility that we can, with proper engagement of policymakers, infrastructure providers, and of course institutions, be able to create an ecosystem for doing things. We don't just do these things for the sake of doing infrastructures. We need to do projects on top of them. I'm excited to tell you that there's a very good project that we did before regarding, for example, Energy Systems for All. There's some publications that you can see there where meteorologists in Southern Africa work together using these cyber infrastructures. Colleagues, I'm here because I want to tell you about AOSP. The entity that I direct is a coordinating function that seeks to advance open science in the continent across all those areas that you can see there. And very finally, before the Master of Ceremony kicks me out, I think it's very important. We talked about the G20. South Africa is the president of the G20. We are working with the South African presidency to advance the open innovation for development agenda. We scoped out disaster risk reduction as a key area. Data is the problem. Where is the data regarding disaster risks? It's fragmented even across the same government entities, whether it's in Ghana, whether it's in South Africa. You try to report on economic loss. Where is the data? You can't really find it. So we have a very exciting project to really get the G20 to work together on an area that is not controversial, disaster risks. And we are looking at all levels, including developing innovations across the G20 to do things. I'm very excited about the possibility of this collaboration, and I think I'll stop there. I've got a number of slides, but the reality is we need the cyber infrastructures. We need the research infrastructures. We need to talk about open science. We also need to think about tangible projects that can get us Africans, not to know about each other when we are here, but for the projects that we are doing to then become programs that are linked, we can all accrue value out of. I think I'll stop there, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you. I stand it up because I found 60 slides in your presentation. Okay, so just one question. As a chair, I can use my power, you know, to ask. So just one interesting question. I would like to hear from your view. Okay. What is the most critical institutional reform needed to ensure open science and digital transformation are adopted sustainably and equitably across African countries?
A very good question. I used to be in a board of directors for some state-owned company. There's a first thing that you learn that fish rot from the head. It means that we need to make sure that our leadership is also educated. I was very happy to hear the Vice Chancellor here today. A lot of scientists here are chasing publications, publish in a high-impact journal because they're not incentivized to look at their progression in any other way. They're not challenged to think about what the impact of what they do can be best measured. And at the same time, they're consuming public resources to do science to become, like you and I, become important professors. So I think it's very important to educate our policymakers, to create, obviously, enabling policy frameworks. We need our leaders. Our politicians are scared of the science. I spent 2 years of my life sacrificing my academic career, seconded to government. If you look at the next 20 slides, you'll see a presentation on the Smart Botswana Initiative, where I was seconded for 2 years to develop roadmaps, strategies. The first 2 weeks was very tentative and cagey, and everybody was sort of, you know, who is this policymaker, who's that? But by the end of the exercise, we are comfortable with each other. Scientists must wear some suits. This is the only one that I have, by the way. You must go there. Science does not happen in a vacuum. They make the decisions, and you are in the lab, and you got no say in terms of educating them what needs to be done. So to answer your question, Prof, we need to educate our leaders. The Vice Chancellor she is today, she can do a lot in terms of thinking about the culture of the organizations. Are we incentivizing the right behaviors? What's there to incentivize you for writing a policy brief and a science communication piece after you've written a very high impact journal, scientific public review piece? And you're in the public health space, and you've done COVID work with stakeholders, you're not even communicating yourself. So two things for me. Policymakers, institutional leaders, in terms of making sure that the right behaviors are incentivized to actually promote open science. And again, obviously, the issue of investments. Politicians make investment decisions based on what they think obviously addresses societal and country needs. And they think science is somewhere else, development is somewhere else. We need to show them that these things are intertwined. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mutriga. So we shall now proceed with 3 spotlight presentations from ARISE Fellows, who are leading pioneering work in digital innovation. Each presenter will have 5 minutes. I will introduce each speaker, then the mic with you. First, Dr. Bessie Malila.
Afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to present my work. I need the Okay, the title of my presentation this afternoon is Leveraging Digital Health Technologies to Address Africa's Healthcare Delivery Challenges. I'm a senior lecturer from yesterday at the University of Johannesburg. I've currently been at the University of Cape Town, where I'm now an adjunct lecturer, where I'm continuing with my ARISE project. So Africa's healthcare challenges across the continent include high burden of disease, poor health infrastructures, a critical shortage of skilled healthcare professionals, including biomedical engineers, and the limited funding for healthcare. So there are advances in digital transformation in the continent that have taken place in the past 10, 20 years that are now enabling the use of digital health innovations or adoption of digital health innovations to improve healthcare delivery. First, we have seen an expansion of digital infrastructures, including mobile penetration, high-capacity submarine cables, and expanding data centers for cloud services and data sovereignty. We have also seen a proliferation of digital health innovations that include telemedicine platforms, electronic health records, and development digital health platforms. There's also an increasing adoption of cybersecurity and data protection laws due to the rise in digital health services. So there's an adoption of data protection laws, capacity building in cybersecurity frameworks, and cybersecurity frameworks and digital innovations. So my ARISE project aims to design and develop 5G-enabled digital health test-bed infrastructure for testing and validating digital health interventions, including telemedicine, mHealth applications, and modeling virtual clinics and 5G-enabled smart hospitals. We're doing this by leveraging novel technologies, 5G, 6G technologies, artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and blockchain technologies for security. And we're achieving this through postgraduate student research projects and local and international collaborations. So one of the key concepts we are using in designing and developing our solutions is the concept of design thinking and solution co-creation, where we believe solutions are only not developed by engineers in the lab, but in collaboration with users like government, healthcare professionals, the patients, and other technical innovators. So the key highlights for my ARISE projects include a 5G digital health research infrastructure, where we now have a working prototype at the University of Cape Town. We're now in the process of engaging industry partners to implement 5G, real-world 5G infrastructures for research purposes. We've also developed a teleaudiology system where we have proved evidence of the equivalence between in-person and remote hearing screening. We also have a virtual clinic system for primary health care. On the left of the diagram, our virtual clinic system utilizes medical devices, and we've developed a software which can be used by nurses to interact remotely with doctors attending to patients. We've also developed a latent TB screening smartphone based on using smartphone technology and hyperspectral imaging. We now have a working prototype which has now been adopted for use in Vietnam, where they are doing large-scale screening of TB, as well as in South Africa. One of our key outputs is graduation of 3 master's students, and we've got 1 PhD student expected to graduate in December 2025. So the ARISE project, our ARISE project contributes to the AU-EU policy on public health and capacities for science through the developed 5G test infrastructure, development of novel digital health solutions, capacity building for biomedical engineers, and the acceleration of translation of research ideas into digital health solutions. Progress towards Africa's STI agenda, we are upgrading science laboratories and establishing world-class STI infrastructures. We're also establishing African inter-university collaboration for improved efficiency in physical digital infrastructures and human resource utilization. One of the key drawbacks in Africa, especially among researchers, is lack of collaboration between universities, even within universities. which is something that our European collaborators and universities are quite taking a big lead on that. We're also building interdisciplinary collaboration and partnerships between scientists and engineers, and we're also supporting governments in training of human capacity with necessary competencies and capabilities to plan, organize, lead, and coordinate research projects. So we're also involved in a lot of international collaborations. You can scan the QR code for the Digit Africa project, one of a collaboration between 5 African universities and 7 European universities. I'm also engaging researchers from University of Malawi, University of Zimbabwe, National University of Science and Technology, and also we're engaging the Research Council of Zimbabwe, where we are identifying opportunities for building capacity for biomedical engineers in the SADC region. So I would like to take this time to thank our funders and also our research team. Our achievements are through research projects of postgraduate students. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And now the second presentation from Dr. Kataoura Belteko from Togo. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Dr. Kataoura Belteko. He's online? No? Okay. So we will finish early. Okay, great. Okay. So, thank you for this fast presentation, and now we will go for the third one from Dr. Amna Haregwa from Tunisia.
Thank you, Professor Zuba. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to take the time to acknowledge and thank the AAS for the invitation and for to be here, and the University of Ghana as well for hosting us. So my talk will be about successful stories and innovation using bioinformatics and artificial intelligence for drug discovery. And I'll try to go very quickly on the thematics of the work. So it's basically what we do is that in order to cut through the lengthy and costly drug discovery pipeline, we introduce computational approaches that include structural bioinformatics and artificial intelligence in order to reduce cost and time of the process, but basically also to enhance the outcomes. And this is with the objective to end some neglect of infectious diseases around Africa and respond to the needs of the continents in terms of new therapeutics. So the BIND project that has been submitted and accepted for funding by the African Academies of Science in the frame of the ARISE grants is called BIND, Bioinformatics and AI for Drug Discovery Against Infectious Diseases. And it's basically articulated in 2 big axes of research. So the first one is an applied axe where we use AI to discover new therapeutics against infectious diseases of interest like leishmaniasis, malaria, and COVID-19. And the second one is the development of novel approaches and innovative approaches in AI-assisted drug discovery. Most of our pipeline would look like this. So we start with collecting and preparing data set of interest. Then we work on properly encode our data in order to make sure that the upstream algorithms of AI will be able to extract the important information out of these in order to be trained and validated, and then have some predictive or generative models in order to have novel drug candidates to be then tested in the lab. And our objective is to make sure that we can optimize all different steps. So for the first part, which is the data, as our honored guest first speaker has highlighted, the data is really the bottleneck of the process whenever we're talking AI and also bioinformatics. And basically what we've done is that we have put a huge amount of efforts in collecting good data sets, targeting leishmaniasis and coronaviruses separately, in order to make sure that we will be leveraging and enhancing machine learning and deep learning algorithms in providing information about the potential of some molecules to be biologically active against these diseases of interest. So we took all these models along the data, the created data that we had, and we put them into an open access platform called CDSDB, where people with no coding skills would access fine-tuned and optimal AI models to predict the biological activity of their molecules of interest. This work has been published in 2024. But we don't stop there. We go further and we do some real drug discoveries against leishmaniasis. I would like to highlight how through the AI pipeline, we were able to leverage, even through very low throughput screening in our lab, with no automatic capacities, we were able to screen 40 molecules, out of which we had now 5 promising drug candidates in hands that will be further examined for patenting and for preclinical studies. Now, before I finish, I would like to stop a little bit and talk more about technology, since this is a technology session. And as part of what we develop as technologies in terms of AI, we do different types of projects. One of them had the objective of including a quantum computing component into a renowned structure called MOLGAN. This is a generative model for molecules generation. And our objective was to leverage quantum computing and see if we can outperform the classical approaches and whether we will be enhancing the outcome. Ideally, we would like to have more new and unique molecules that can be used for synthesis and testing as drugs. And our work, our MOLGAN QRL model, was able to have 16-fold more new molecules generated than the classical one. This work is has been submitted very lately. We also use generative models in order to generate new molecules, but now we would like to assess and address the toxicity problems in molecules. In drug discovery, toxicity of models and attrition rates during the late clinical studies and phases of the process are the bottleneck of the whole process. So here we would like to address this through having a framework that will have a predictive machine learning algorithms within it in order to help the generative system generate molecules with low toxicity profiles and enhance drug likeliness properties. Then we use the fragments that have been generated as lead fragments for fragment-based drug discovery against tuberculosis, which is a disease that is in the most need of new non-toxic drugs as treatments. The late small project that I would like to highlight is how we leverage mobile applications and AI in order to develop low resources microscopy projects. So this have come from our need to have microscopy tools that will count and detect parasites within cells in our drug discovery pipelines, but we don't have microscope with the necessary software, nor the necessary infrastructure. So what we did is that we purchased a small support from Amazon. It costs around $40. And then we developed a mobile application that is running behind a whole segmentation and object detection tools that will detect each cell and each parasite. And as you see, the parasites are so small that if we need to account for thousands of them during one screening of a handful of molecules, that would take many days for one expert biologist to do the work. So the idea is that we will reduce maybe a month or a month and a half of work into 1 day or 2 days of work using this smartphone application. Out of this, we have a data descriptor paper, one methodology paper under preparation, and also a software paper that will be following. So just to wrap up, we are here having innovative methodologies that are coming out of our RISE grant under the BIND project. We have therapeutic molecules that hopefully tomorrow I'll be talking more about what we are doing with these molecules. And basically, we are trying really to navigate the tech transfer issues and to really reach out the industry in order to make them reach the market. But along the way, we are building a lot of capacities. So we have 2 postdoctoral fellows, 2 PhD students in the group. Most of the time between engineering students and master students, we will have 6 to 7 each year. 1 assistant, project assistant, and 1 engineer, along with senior and associate professors that are doing the work. And we are doing a lot of capacity building and workshops in our institution and neighboring universities. We are looking up to patenting. We are looking to high impact publications, but we also would like to highlight that we are all doing this under open science frameworks. This is the team. I would like to acknowledge each one of them, and I would like to acknowledge the funds from the African Academies of Science under the ARISE program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Just we can open the floor for our fellows. Just a quick questions from the floor before we move to the last stage of this session. Any questions from the floor? I have many about the AI-driven model, but this needs long debates, you know, and we can spend the rest of the night on this, but leave this later, Anna. Yeah. Any question from the floor? Okay, so we now turn to our high-level panel discussion, which will examine the opportunities and the challenges for Africa in scaling ethical, sustainable, and inclusive digital systems. I am honored to introduce our panelists, Professor Raja Al-Morsli, Mohammed V. University, Morocco, Dr. Christina Zhang, Chief Executive Officer, the Metaverse Institute, United Kingdom, online with us, and Professor Rafael Mnovo, Chairperson, Konza Technopolis Development Authority Board, Kenya. So, I will pass the mic to our panelists, just 2 minutes from each of you. Give us your insights, your reflections about the theme which we are talking about in this session. So I pass the mic to Professor Al-Morsli first.
Area of science and technology, especially from artificial intelligence and advanced data analysis. Based on my experience as a physicist, as Vice President of African Academy of Science, as Vice President for NASAC, the network of Academy in Africa, Academy of Science, I see 4 main barriers to digital transformation and innovation in Africa. First, the digital infrastructure is still weak in many places. Many universities and research centers do not have stable internet, powerful computing, or enough data storage. Without this foundation, it is very difficult to do modern scientific research or to join international collaboration. Second, there is a limited and short-term investment. We need more than just equipment. We need long-term support for digital system maintenance and especially for people. Too often, African institutions depend on small external projects that stop after 1 or 2 years, and national budgets are also limited. And third, we face a serious skill gap. Africa needs many more trained experts in artificial intelligence, data science, and high-performance computing. And we must pay special attention to young people and women in digital science. If we don't train the next generation, we can't move forward. And fourth, last but not least, there is too much fragmentation. Many digital projects and research programs are disconnected. They don't speak to each other and they don't grow. We need more regional cooperation, shared platform. Today we say open platform, thank you for this. And joint training program to build skills and sustainability. So in short, the key barriers are weak infrastructure, limited investment, a storage of skills, and lack of coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manoho. Can you allow me to stand there? Oh, yeah. You know, today is a very special day here. The reason it's special is because, for me, I will not give the presentation the way you expect. Number one, I really must appreciate the fact that the African Academy of Sciences has really done a fantastic job bringing these distinguished ARISE fellows to give their reports. It's fantastic. I have learned a lot, and I have a lot to take home with me. One of the things that I think, Madam, that we need to do, I had a lot of things that have been indicated here, is some of the presentations here we need in future to ensure, like what has been mentioned in by the lady from Tunisia. You do research, you publish. But the most important thing is you do research and you ask yourself, what impact will that research have in the needs or on the needs of the community? And therefore, when you publish, you make it in the public domain. But you can also do a patent protection. The other thing I had, which I am taking home, is the issue of multidisciplinarity. And I was looking at the presentations that were done here, and I was saying, wow, it would be fantastic if the AAS would look for a way in which, on an annual basis, you have a very unique publication, okay? Multidisciplinary. And I think it's extremely important for us to be able to do that. I have learned a lot. And one of the things that I have discovered now is I will not be saying unpacking or unpacking the future. The future has been unpacked already. So we don't have to wait and say we are going to unpack the future. We are also not going to be saying scientific community collaboration with Africa. Call it scientific collaboration within Africa, but also with Africa. You understand what I'm saying? It is us working collaboratively together. That to me is very important. The issue of looking for solutions and saying homegrown solutions, including funding, we should be focusing on that. That to me is very important. And finally, we are one Africa. The Africa must be connected. And this interconnection will be brought by none other than the issue you mentioned about AI, sharing data, open data, and so forth. That to me is extremely important for us to keep that in mind. And you know, I had 3 or 4 individuals mention something about you are calling indigenous sciences, indigenous technology, traditional, whatever name you use. Professor, you talked about the drugs, the medicinal drugs. And I was just thinking, please take this to the bank. The figures that you give to me in terms of the role of natural products in our modern medicine is the figures are high. I'll tell you a true story. You know, there was a disease, and ladies may not know this, but childhood leukemia, cancer for young babies. The cure is two diseases, two drugs, vinblastine and vincristine. They come from Catharanthus roseus from Madagascar Republic. 1955, somebody from Europe, no, from the US, came and said, so this drug is coming from this particular plant, and you saw the flower. The flower is beautiful, and it can be yellow, green, and so on and so forth. So he said, I want to take this to a place called Florida in the US, so that we grow it there, so that we don't have to import these things from Africa. And of course, he took it there, and it grew. The flowers were beautiful, they were flowering and so on, but the drug comes from the roots. So when they looked at it and they admired the fruits, now they went and dug the roots to isolate the two drugs. Do you know what they got? Zero. So the wealth that we have as Africa is not on the national resources that we keep talking about, but there are other national resources that are God-given that there is no way that you can take. Now, let me tell you, moving forward very fast, we must begin to have ideas, and we must begin to think of ways in which we convert these ideas into solutions of the problems we have. So what did we do in Kenya? We said we have challenges with incubation, we have challenges with ensuring that we have young people who are trained and they are given enough and competent skills for the future, not for now. The other one was, how do we attract investors to come on board? How do we support investors? So we had a Vision 2030, which relates very much to the Vision 2063 of the African Union. I am just about to end. And just so that you relax a little bit, let me tell you, we established a body called Konza Technopolis. And this body is anchored on 5,000 acres, 50 kilometers from Nairobi. And this particular entity is called the Smart City. We call it the Savannah, Silicon Savannah, not Silicon Valley in California, but this is the Silicon Savannah. Silicon Savannah does 5 things. One of them is we bring teams together. I am just about to finish.
We have one in the airport.
Yeah, okay.
At the airport.
At the airport.
Oh, really?
Somebody is going at the airport, and this is now where you have to have smart cities and smart lecture theaters, smart. Now, let me end. What we have in Konza Technopolis is we bring together all key players. We bring universities. So we have 3 universities anchored there. One of them is Open University, and all of you can register in the Open University of Kenya. Then we have the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, the only one in Africa. Then we have established a UNDP project called Timbuktu, Green Tech Hub, again, anchored in Konza. All of you can begin to participate. We have one of the biggest data centers in the region, protected, backed up, and that is available again in Konza. So Konza is a route, a way in which we could collaborate, because it is really the smart city for Africa. And you are most welcome. You don't have to worry. When you come to Nairobi, we will take you to Konza. You can relax, you can enjoy. But now, then you may not want to go back. where you come from. That is your problem.
I need the mic.
Yeah. So you can get your mic.
Yeah, I need the mic.
You need some money.
The mic.
Oh, okay, okay. I want to thank you. Really, this is a fantastic occasion for us. The trajectory for Africa is very clear, and I see a lot of light as we move forward. The skills that we need in future are being developed by us. And to me, when you have young people who are constituting 35% of the youth in this world coming from Africa, then the future belongs to Africa.
Thank you so much, Professor Manu. Just quickly, I like two words Professor Manovi mentioned, publication, and this is a message to our ARISE fellows. So publish, but seek for quality, not quantity. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many papers you are publishing. The most important thing, the impact. This is the second word, which is what is the impact of what you are doing. Yeah, and the impact will not come from quantity of publications. One paper can have more impact than 10 papers. So let us, thank you. Let us go for the third. I hope Christina is still in the airport hearing us.
I'm at airport, yeah.
Oh, great, okay. So we have the third panelist, Dr. Christina Zhang, and 2 minutes, please, with you, Christina. Thank you for all of what you did to join us now, and you have 2 minutes just to give us your insights, thoughts, and reflection for the theme of the session.
Can you see my screen here?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, probably it will be 5 minutes because originally I thought it's a 5 minutes presentation, but I'll try to be as quick as possible. And just in case there is some background noise, I'll try to speak as loudly,
Christina,
clearly as possible.
we are late 50 minutes, okay?
Okay, I'll try to be
This is
very
why if we can do 2 minutes, okay, this will be great. The key message from you, okay?
Okay, cool. So I want to start my speech by quoting His Excellency John Mahama, President of Ghana. He said, as it is, we are relying on hope. Hope is good, but science helps you to hope better. It highlights how important it is, science, for every single one of us. Perhaps the most important thing we're talking about now is AI, but according to the latest report published by New York Times in June this year, as you can see that 32 countries in the world, which is 16% of the nation, actually have large facilities to provide AI infrastructure. And among them, about 90% are actually pretty much played by Chinese and United States organizations, while Africa and South America has almost no major AI computing factories which can support the AI infrastructure. So there is a major global AI divide. How can we solve that? The solution is already there, and the African Union has done a wonderful piece of work last year looking at continental artificial intelligence strategy with 5 key pillars, all the way on skills, talent, information gathering, research innovation, etc. And I think every single one of us, researchers who can play a leading role to support collaboration within African continent as well as international collaboration to make it happen. The second area I want to address is brain drain. We all know that there is a lot of brain drain issues where top talents from Africa, how can we retain them? I can give you one example. As you can see, I was made in China, reinvented in the UK. So in 1978, China has opened up policy to send large number of top talents to study overseas. And then we have, tried to experience how to address the brain drain issues ourselves. There is a joke. Basically, there are 3 types of people who study overseas and then come back or not come back. The first type is called a seaweed, which means they actually have studied overseas, but they haven't really, cultivate top opportunities for themselves. So when they go back home to China, they actually their overseas experience is not that valuable to help them to get better jobs. So they have the same kind of name as coming from overseas, but they are waiting to have more opportunities for themselves. And the name is called seaweed. It means you're waiting to have more opportunity. The second category is called sea turtle, which means they have learned the very best from different parts of the world and really enhance their capacities to build their country into a better place. And then they have more values to bring back to the home country. That's called sea turtle. This is the upgraded version of attracting brain power back home. And increasingly, the third title is called seagull. What that means is that person, maybe they're from Africa, but once they study overseas, they become really talented. They get more opportunities to set up their own business or become investors or really working for very promising jobs. And they start to become the great ambassador for the home country, for example, Africa, and where they are living now to really promote better collaboration in terms of trade, investment, talent. So I think the way to address brain drain is how we can maximize our powerful global network of the African continent diaspora who are currently living overseas and encouraging them to working very closely with their university, their city, their hometown to become the ambassador to bridge the very best opportunities for Africa continent as a whole internationally. And my third point is on financing. As you can remember, currently, many universities in Africa are actually, having a little bit funding freeze as a result of all kinds of different reasons. So how can we address that? I think personally, we should looking at not only publish or perish, but also looking at how we can translate our very impactful research into spin-off or startups that can create new jobs and new economy for Africa continent as a whole. But in addition to that, the latest development in the finance world is called tokenization of real-world assets. As you can see, according to the latest development by London School of Economics, more and more African countries are looking at how to tokenize the national debt to create more liquidity for their national development plan. And also World Bank, IMF are also looking at how to use tokenization to support development finance in different parts of the world, especially in Africa. So maybe there is a lot of opportunities we can do that for our universities and national laboratories. And lastly, I want to say, as you can see, according to the latest report from The Economist, the 22nd century is going to be the African continent. Why is that? If you're looking at the latest figures from United Nations, by 2100, almost half of the world's younger generation will be coming from Africa. So it doesn't matter where you're going to be working and living, you're going to deal with our beautiful African fellows pretty much on a daily basis. So I think what was described in Wakanda Forever will very likely to happen within our lifetime, where Africa will become fundamentally the most innovative continent for all, which will be very exciting. So we have been very honored as Metaverse Institute to start to play a part in that. So recently we signed a strategic partnership with the African Telecommunication Union to develop the Pan-African digital governance around AI-powered virtual world to really support the Wakanda dream for every single one of us. And lastly, I want to quote my role model, Nelson Mandela, and he said, the spirit of Umbatu that profound Africa's sense that we are human only through the humanity of other human beings has added globally to our common sense for a better world. So on that happy note, I will say Africa forever, and let's use the spirit of Umbatu to make Africa promising and the center of the world in terms of innovation and technology to benefit all humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, to conclude this interesting panel session, just one quick questions for all of our panelists. And I will start with Christina as she is at the airport. So can you give us one critical challenge facing African digital transformation in research and innovation, one critical challenge.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
I would say the critical issue is, as I mentioned before, how we can start to develop a culture to focusing on how we can translate all the amazing level of research into real-world products which are scalable, investable, to have tangible outcome to impact on the daily life of our 1.5 billion population of African fellows.
Okay.
I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you, Christina. Professor Morsley. Yeah, just one critical challenge facing is the digital transformation in research and innovation.
Yes.
Please, very briefly.
Yes,
They
yes.
will take the mic from me.
I take 2 minutes in the beginning, so please let me. I want to give an example where I was involved. I think it's very important. Let me share a quick example from Morocco where I was involved. I have worked for many years on a global scientific project, including the Atlas experiment at CERN in Geneva, and also kind to unite its telescope in the Mediterranean Sea. And to be member of this, we have to analyze data. And it is impossible for us to go to Geneva every day. So thanks to that, currently we have developed, thanks to this research, because we have the trust of the policymakers, because we have a member of the discovery of the particle Higgs, and so the trust is there. And we have two infrastructure, two examples. For a little project, now we have the Toubkal supercomputer at the Mohammed University 6 Polytechnic. It's now the most power in Africa, and also in the CNRST is the National Center who have network between all university, Marwan network. And this is also, why I give this, because from a little project you can have something very important in your country. And we are living that. And another, one sentence, Africa's digital future must be built by African, for African. And this is very important and must include everyone in Africa. Thank you.
One critical challenge, Professor. Only one critical challenge facing digital transformation in African research and innovation.
Prof, just one, briefly, just one.
Just one.
Just one.
I will just mention one. One.
What will be the critical challenge?
I would say borderless transfer of knowledge and information, borderless, across African countries. Let Africa remain connected. Let us bring Africa together. Thank you.
So, thank you to our panelists and the audience. This session has demonstrated not only the talent of African researchers, but also the importance of building structures that sustain and scale innovation across borders. As we continue towards the G20 manifesto, let us carry forward the clear message that Africa is ready to lead in responsible, values-driven digital transformation. Thank you. This is the end of the session, and I will leave the mic to the lady to say good night all.
Thank you very much, Prof. I appreciate your time and your patience. We're very sorry we've run late. But to have our closing remarks, we'll first have the first from Prof. Kenneth Ozomina.
And I'm informed if you've had some chocolate today, this is courtesy Prof. Ozomena. Today is his birthday, so say a prayer for him.
Thank you. Can I put this thing down? Oh, no.
You put it here.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Kenneth Ozemena. I'm the Vice President for Southern Africa of the AAS. So I'm here. I'm sure all of us here must have been excited, just as I was, as I am. If you haven't learned anything today, then something must be wrong. I've learned so much. They say every day we learn something. I'm excited, first of all, that this is my first time to Ghana. It's a shame, but it's my first time. I'm excited that my dad, my late dad, was in Ghana in the same city, Accra. That was where he was working and was dating my mom in Nigeria. They were writing those love letters before I was born. I'm also excited that today is my birthday. I'm also excited. Thank you very much. I'm also excited that my mom, who is over 80 years, only calls her firstborn child on the 2nd of July every year. So when I moved out here, I just got her phone call, and I must answer that call because it only comes once a year. Yeah, that's my mom. So I'm very excited. When I got to the airport yesterday, I was reminded, tomorrow is your birthday. I said, oh, who told you? Okay. And I will be leaving tomorrow, but I have to be here today. I have to be at this conference because I attach a lot of importance to it. It's very, very important that we are here. I've heard a lot of things about ARISE, so much, and we can see, like Professor Monavo said, we already have it here. So I will summarize. Let us close properly, please. We have exercised a lot of patience. I would want us to close properly. Just give me only 5 minutes to wrap up, and then they will come and close the meeting properly, okay? Okay, so there are 5 things should be our take-home messages. Number 1 is about unlocking digital transformation. The last speaker, Nina, painted a gloomy picture, as you could see. Everything in the US, Europe, Asia, and then we're only having 2 places in Africa, Southern Africa. My brother, Professor Mosheha, was a bit optimistic that something would happen. So we need to do something about it. So the rapid evolution of technology and digital transformation offers unprecedented opportunities for Africa, from telecommunication services linking farmers to vital information to the potential for e-health, transforming healthcare delivery. Embracing a digital local approach is key to accelerating progress across various sectors. The second point, our second take-home message will be investing in local capacity and research. We have heard a lot about that today, that we need investment in research and local capacity. We must remember our gender. We talk about our women, talk about our youths. We have seen everything here today. In fact, there was a lecture, there was a presentation, I was asking, where are the men here? Only female that I saw in that group. The third one would be prioritizing people-centered, yes, I've already said that, prioritizing people-centered innovation. The third one, the fourth one would be, we want to leverage continental integration. Monavo said that. Everybody has been saying that. Our father, the father of the continent, Kwame Nkrumah, who was born in this country, started this integration, and that's why we have AU today. So we must continue to talk about that. So many years later, we are still talking about it, and we cannot talk about it enough. So there is the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, is one of that. We need people to move. We need to move. This is the only country I have visited in my life without a visa.
In fact, when I was going there, I said, look, I'm going to Ghana. They said, do you need a visa? I said, no, I don't think I need a visa to come to Ghana. And I will say that with pride because I have never had any place. I have never gone anywhere without a visa. It's only Ghana. Thank you very much. So the last one will be, we need to leverage, we have to understand that Africa is playing a leading role in global science. Africa is not just a recipient of scientific progress, but a leading force for innovation and solutions. From historical contributions to steel production, we had it, to current advancements in traditional medicine, we had that, and neglected tropical diseases. Africa's unique strength and scientific ingenuity are driving progress that matters on a global scale. We must continue to invest in and champion Africa's science to turn global promises into Africa-led action. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So the host would send us home. Prof. Dodu.
Thank you very much. I must say I do appreciate this opportunity for the University of Ghana to host this august occasion. And on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana and all the senior management, I would like to thank you that as we bring to conclusion the first day of the ARISE SD Scientific Conference, I wish to extend our heartfelt appreciation to each of you for your presence, your insight, and unwavering commitment to advancing science and innovation across Africa. Today has been really a powerful demonstration of what is possible when we come together with a shared vision to harness the power of research and innovation for sustainable development in Africa. And from the opening reflections, also on the parts of the Muscat Declaration to the rich discussions that we've had covering the global health, sustainable agriculture, the blue economy, the digital transformation, we have seen the breadth and depth of African scientific excellence on a full display today. As a proud fellow of the African Academy of Sciences and also as the Director of Research and Innovation at the University of Ghana, I am especially inspired by the energy and ideas shared today, the ideas that align closely with our institution's mission to foster impactful research and global partnerships. Particularly, I would like to highlight the Horizon Europe Africa initiative that we had, the workshop that we had this morning, which provided a practical forward-looking platform for Ghanaian researchers and institutions. And this was led by Professor Laurent and the AU-ASRIC team, and helping us with all the consortium. Especially this workshop aligns perfectly with the strategic goals of the University of Ghana, particularly our commitment to impactful research and engagement and partnership. And it also reflects the spirit of the ARISE Sustainable Development, which seeks to empower African researchers to lead, collaborate, and innovate on the global stage. I want to thank the African Academy of Sciences, the ARISE SD program, and the European Union, the African Union, and all partners for their vision and support. I also salute the many ARISE and APTI fellows, especially those from Ghana, whose work continue to push the boundaries and deliver impact. To our own ARISE fellow, Professor Edem Maho, and to all the AAS fellows from our country and Ghana and across the continent, including Professor George Ama, your achievements are a source of pride and a beacon for the next generation of African scientists. Let us all carry the momentum today into the rest of the conference and beyond. Looking forward to what we're having tomorrow. I would like to thank you once again for coming and for all your engagement, and I wish you a restful evening and looking forward to the continued dialogue tomorrow. On behalf of the university, I say medase and good night.
Recording stopped.
Much, Prof. We'll take a group picture and then we'll call it a day. I was your MC, Dr. Winisoa, with the Department of Marine and Fishery Sciences. Have a good evening. Kindly come towards the stage for the picture. Thank you. Shall we have the entire team? Those in the back room as well?
The office is yet to decide.
Hello. Thank you all for coming. We see you tomorrow morning at AICC. So see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eugene. Early in the morning. We are starting as early as possible tomorrow at AICC. So please see you tomorrow in the morning.